I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to this afternoon's agenda meeting. This afternoon we'll review those action items that will be addressed formally by the Board of Directors on Tuesday, September 6th, the day after Labor Day, at 6 p.m. right here at City Hall. I'll call upon Mr. Burrow to review those action items, but before he begins, we have two board members out. Again, this is an agenda meeting, so it's not a mandatory meeting, but we are missing Director Jones and Director Trustee. So, Mr. Burrow.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Your first item is consider Resolution R-22-130, a resolution approving amendments to the 2022 City of Hot Springs, Arkansas budget. And our Finance Director, Ms. Karen Scott, will present this item.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Board. There is a need to amend several departmental budgets at this point in the fiscal year due to increased costs for many items that were not anticipated when the 2022 budget was developed and adopted. Many of the budgets need to be amended for increased fuel costs and vehicle repairs and maintenance. Most revenue increases are recommended so the budget may more accurately reflect actual collections and will be adequate to cover the increases in expenditures. Attached to the resolution is Appendix A, which lists all of the line items that we are proposing to be amended, both increases and decreases.
Any questions? Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. These were discussed at the meeting for goal setting in August
Correct.
6th. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R-22-131, a resolution approving the application of Langston's Carter Fun Bus Party Bus for charter services transportation permit, and our City Clerk, Harmony Morrissey, will present.
Thank you. On June 29th, Mr. Langston Carter applied for a sightseeing and charter permit for Fun Bus Party Bus. He previously owned and managed a limo party bus business in Los Angeles, California. On July 27th, a duly advertised public hearing was held before the Transportation Advisory Committee. Mr. Carter presented his request and furnished evidence of his experience and commitment to providing such transportation services here in Hot Springs. The Transportation Committee found that the requested services serve the public interest and the applicant is fit to operate such services. The committee further gave Mr. Carter until the end of 2022 to remit the remaining requirements and recommended that upon staff satisfaction with the submission of those remaining permit requirements, the Board of Directors grant Mr. Langston Carter of Fun Bus Party Bus authorization to operate the permitted transportation services within the city. On August 25th, Mr. Carter verbally amended his application to remove the request for a sightseeing permit, leaving the request for only a charter permit. He has now submitted all requisite information and documents to the approval of staff, and Mr. Carter has met all of the code requirements for a charter permit. The Transportation Advisory Committee has recommended approval of the request, which now comes to you, the board, for final approval.
Any questions of Harmony?
Yes, ma'am.
Director Garcia.
Is it possible to put this in new business? Just to, if they're here to have questions, ask them. I'm not familiar with any of this, and just their name may raise concern with some residents.
So
To have
this is on a
clarification.
consent agenda, so do we need to move it?
The board so desires.
Does anybody oppose that?
What do we have on the?
It's not too lengthy there.
We can go ahead and move it to new business.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move on.
Thank you. Resolution R-22-132, a resolution approving a budget adjustments to complete work associated with the 2022 annual street paving list, and our Assistant City Engineer, Mike Hill, will present. Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Board. In April, we passed Resolution 9990 for our paving list and approved a budget for that paving list. Then following in May, we received our bids for that paving list. The bids were much higher than we anticipated. We accepted the bids, but we didn't have enough budget in order to pay for all the streets that we had put in the list. So we trimmed the list back, and now it's been decided, since we have money still in the Pave It Forward funds, to come back and request an additional $2,019,280 from Pave It Forward funds, so that we can go back to our original list and do all the streets that we put in that was originally approved in April of this year.
Any questions of Mike on this topic? Thank you.
Next, we have your, I guess it'd be your second item down under new business, is Resolution R22-133, a resolution declaring a certain structure located at 322 Pleasant Valley Street a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. And our Chief Building Official, Mike Scott, will present the item.
Thank you, sir. 322 Pleasant Street. This is a single-family structure located in District 1. The current owner purchased the vacant property in 2020 and began making repairs. However, once the repairs began, he quickly realized the cost was greater than he expected. Original built on piers, the house would need extensive foundation work. Other violations which create public health and safety risks include rotten and missing siding, rotten floor joists, damage to the roof and ceiling. Notices were issued to the owner, and we have received confirmation, and we also posted the structure.
Any questions of Mike on this? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R22-134, a resolution declaring a certain structure located at 213 Blake Street a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. And again, Mr. Scott.
Thanks, sir. This is a single-family residence located in District 2. The property is owned by Tommy and Denver Woodfork. However, Denver Woodfork is now deceased. Miss Joy Barron has power of attorney over the property as well. The property is currently certified to the state on failure to pay taxes. Issues that create a public health and safety risk include damaged roof, missing siding, missing porch decking, damaged windows and doors. A recent interior inspection has not been performed as the owners have denied access to the property on the inside. All the pictures you see were taken off the property. We took them from sidewalks, side streets. Notices of these proceedings were issued, and we have received confirmation from Mr. Woodfork and Miss Barron. In addition, a notice was attached to the structure.
Any questions of Mike on this property? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R22-135, a resolution approving a lease and service agreement with Safe Haven Baby Boxes Incorporated and authorizing a memorandum of understanding with the Knights of Columbus Council 6415 for the installation and maintenance costs associated with the newborn safety device. And our Fire Chief, Ed Davis, is here to present the item.
Good afternoon, Directors. Thank you for letting me come before you. What the fire department is proposing is to enter into a contract with Safe Haven Baby Boxes and the Knights of Columbus to install and establish a, for lack of a better word, portal that would allow a mother in distress to place her newborn child in it. This portal basically is a temperature-controlled environment, air-conditioned and heated. At the time that the mother placed the newborn into the baby box, there would be a delay before an alarm would go off. That small delay would allow her some anonymity to be able to leave the scene and to maintain her privacy. At the time that alarm would go off, the firefighters would go to the portal, and they could actually access this from the inside the station as well. And they would, at that point in time, deal with the child's medical needs. And at the same time that the alarm went off in the fire station, it would go off in the police station as well. So you would have the immediate response of law enforcement. You would have a paramedic or an EMT there at the fire station giving immediate care. Obviously, we would be calling LifeNet for the child to then be transported to the hospital. So kind of give you a little background on it. Basically, what this does is it installs and maintains this baby box. The installation costs about $11,000. Maintenance costs each year is about $300. The Knights of Columbus and their representative Dayton Meyer is here today, and they have committed to pay for the installation costs and for the ongoing maintenance costs associated with this. The term of the original agreement is 5 years. You would have an option to reapprove the agreement for 5 more terms of 1 year each. At the end of the 10-year time period, we would need to renegotiate a contract at that time. These have been used all throughout the United States of America successfully, even locally. Benton had a child who was placed in the baby box and was actually adopted out and is living a good life now. So there's no shortage of people who want to have newborns. And if there is a mother that is in distress because she has been abandoned by the father or has bad economic times, the safe haven laws of the state of Arkansas protect that mother up to 30 days after birth. And so fire department believes in the preservation of all life, and we think this is a good fit with our mission. And we're asking your permission to allow us to install this free of charge for the city. And Dayton is here if you have any questions you'd like to ask him.
Any questions of the Chief Davis?
Sounds good.
Thank
Thank you all.
Next, we have Resolution R22-136, a resolution awarding a bid to Crow Group Incorporated for the construction of Phase 3 of the new water treatment plant as part of the Lake Washita Water Supply Project in the amount of $34,950,000. And our project manager, Todd Pillar, is here to discuss the item. Todd?
Thank you. Good afternoon. We took bids on July 26th for our new 15 million gallon a day water plant. And Crow Group of Morrilton, Arkansas was the low bidder. And this is Phase 3 of the water plant site designed by Christ Engineers. Remember, Phase 1 was a $2 million contract with CDI contractors to do our site preparation and grading contract. And that was completed earlier this year. And Phase 2 is our 3 million gallon concrete clear well that's currently under construction by NatGun, subsidiary of DN Tanks, and that is $4.2 million. This Phase 3 is the water plant itself and the administrative and laboratory building out front. The water plant building itself will house all the required Arkansas Health Department treatment processes. It's approximately 110 feet wide, 250 feet long, and has a 30-foot high eave. Has approximately 27,500 square feet in the building for the water plant. And then the administrative laboratory building out front is a single-story building that will be 5,500 square feet in size. Crow Group was the low bidder of 3 bids we received, was selected based on the certified bid tab and a letter of recommendation from Christ Engineers. A notice of intent to award was posted on the city website August 25th and expires September 1st. And Crow Group compensation will be in the form of the total base bid amount of $34,950,000. The project will be funded by the remaining 2020 water bond funds, and then a general fund bridge loan in the amount of $7,950,000. So the water bond fund will fund $27 million, and the bridge loan from the general funds will be $7,950,000. And I'll answer any questions if needed.
Questions of Todd on this?
Mayor, I think it is worth stating at this point that of those 3 bids, this was the low bidder, and those bids range from this $34,950 that you see before you today and $57 million, which is one of the reasons staff is bringing that to you with the bridge loan until we find additional funding that we can have in place to take care of that bridge loan and then move forward with the other portions of the water supply project. This is important to note because we truly believe that should we not accept this bid at this time, that our future bids are going to increase by $10 to $20 million as we see in the second and third bids that came in. So wanted to mention that to the board as well.
And Director Garcia?
Will everything be in our packet regarding all of this information, not just on the contract, but this bridge loan? And that the city attorney has reviewed everything?
Yes, ma'am. I have reviewed everything. The certificate of availability references the accounts coming from the general fund that will provide the necessary shortfall as a bridge loan to the water fund. The bid tab itself will be in your packet, obviously. As Mr. Burr indicated, this bid is $34,950,000. The next one is $47,599,000, and the third bid is $54,350,000. Both of the lower bids did have some exceptions from the bid requirements. But the only one that had no exceptions was the $54,350,000. I agree that this is the prudent move at this point, and everything will be in your packet, including artist renderings of what the structure will actually look like.
And if there were any other options looked at for the shortfall, that will be in there too. Just so we have all information in our packet.
I don't think we'll have any information on other options. You know, we did discuss potentially an ANRC at a low cost, but those numbers are not going to, the timing is not going to support the timing we need to accept this bid. The bid is good, I think, for, is it 30 or 90?
Now, one of the exceptions was, we had asked for 90 days. One of the exceptions was related to the 90 days, and they offered 30. They have removed that exception, so this bid is open and good for 90 days from the time of, from July 26th.
From July 26th, yeah.
We appreciated the contractor, the bidder working with us in that regard. Again, I don't know that there's anything that Ms. Scott will add to the packet. As Mr. Burris said, all other options would require a time frame that we could not meet and keep this bid. If we went those other routes, we would have to reject bids and go back out after we secured the funding for the shortfall.
I misquoted the 57 million. It was 54. You know, the likelihood of us spending any of this money from the actual bridge loan is very unlikely. We won't spend this 27 million the date that we sign the contract. It's going to be over the course of the next year and a half that we'll be dealing with this particular project. So we hope to come back and have another funding mechanism in place that will take care of this bridge loan, as well as let us move forward with the finished water lines well before that we need any of the bridge loan. But we did need to put the bridge loan in here, so we'd be able to bring a COA to you.
So the loan doesn't go into effect at approval.
Now, we needed that for the certificate of availability, just to show that we do have that in there.
I understand.
But we'll be bringing another funding mechanism at some point in the future that will take care of that well before we need to use it.
But but we'll see that in our packet, just so everything, what the loan agreement is and what that'll be in the packet.
It's simply an allocation of that line item within the
But, yeah,
budget.
that's what I say, you're gonna have that information in there.
It's included in the COA.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Next, we have your first ordinance of the evening. It's ordinance O-2238, an ordinance approving an agreement with Pro Energy Partners LLC for natural gas on-demand services pursuant to ACA 1458-104-14 and for other purposes. And our Utilities Director, Monty Ledbetter, is here to discuss this item. Monty?
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, staff is requesting approval of a 36-month agreement with Pro Energy Partners LLC out of Houston, Texas, to provide natural gas on demand. A little background, in March of 2012, the City Board of Directors approved for the city to change from a sales customer service account to a bulk rate account. Since we've done that, we've averaged saving around $75,000 a year by purchasing gas through the bulk rate. Been well worth it. Pro Energy Partners will act as our agent for transporting the gas to us. They will also monitor the city's consumption. They will provide us with a 36-month agreement to provide services to the city at a rate of enabled East Index plus the 35 cents per MMBTU plus Summit transportation fees and applicable taxes for the actual amount of gas burned. This is a 100% swing contract, allowing for us to burn however much gas we need throughout the month. It is just like I said, a 100%. There's no penalties involved in that and no buyback clauses. This agreement provides natural gas for the wastewater treatment plant for the boilers. It also provides gas for the animal service, both on Davison Street Drive. Most of the cost goes to the wastewater at a 79% rate, and 21% of that expense goes to the animal service. ACA 14-58-104 provides that the governing body of the cities of the first class and of the second class or incorporated towns may purchase the following commodities without soliciting bids. That's motor fuel, oil, asphalt oil, and natural gas. So we have budgeted money for 2022. We'll be requesting funds for 23, 24, and 25. Any questions?
Questions? Yes. Director
In our
Harrison.
packet, will it include the estimated amount? The item prior to this one and after shows an amount, but this one doesn't. So will that be in our packet? I don't know how much annual amount you were talking about here.
We're talking about an average of about $2,700 a month is what we pay now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Okay.
Next, we have Ordinance O-2239, an ordinance authorizing a contract for services with High Impact Movement Incorporated pursuant to ACA 1458-104-18, and for the purposes, this is in the amount of $100,000, and our Deputy City Manager, Lance Spicer, will present.
Yes, thank you. This particular item comes to you as a request to enter into an agreement with High Impact Movement. High Impact Movement is headed up by Mr. Amos Gray. He's the president of that particular organization. High Impact Movement, he will actually be here at the meeting to present his spring data from the students. This contract for services, as stated, is for $100,000. The 2022 portion will be for $35,000. The remaining $65,000 that will fall into 2023 will be subject to the board's annual consideration of the 2023 city budget. Really, when you talk about the High Impact Movement, the contract for services that we have, it is kind of a direct outcropping of whenever the Boys and Girls Club closed in 2018. This program provides a pretty unique setting for those students. It provides assistance and guidance through everything from educational to social issues, all the way into making them into productive citizens for Hot Springs. Mr. Gray will be here to discuss kind of further some of their stats. They do have some pretty impressive stats. All told, you're talking about they had an average daily of about 100 students that participated. Program is primarily an after-school program. They do some portion of that is summer guidance as well. Really, they use the facility there that is the former Boys and Girls Club at Champion Christian College there on Belding. They also have a facility there on Carson Street, I believe, that the Advertising Promotion Commission is allowing them to use. So really they kind of use a lot of different facilities, but all told, they do have pretty good attendance throughout those, throughout the grades. K through 6 is their largest student population. Junior high is also a growing one. Of course, as you move into the senior high levels, the attendance does drop off. So that's something that Mr. Gray is continuing to work on, but obviously he's building a pretty good foundation with those younger students. But I think I've covered most everything, but if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them if I can, or if not, relay those to Mr. Gray.
Any questions of Lance?
No, that Friday, Channel 7 was here for the Lakeside, Lake Hamilton football game, and they did a very nice piece on this.
They did.
And earlier in the week, Channel 4 and Fox had segments about this in Hot Springs. So they did very good stories. It looked great.
Yeah, he's certainly making an impact, just as the name states.
Any further questions?
This is an extension or renewal of an existing contract with High Impact Movement. So the $35,000 for the remainder of this year is already in your budget. Any funds in 2003 would be subject to budget approval and allocation.
Very good. This completes our action items that will be addressed by the Board of Directors next Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. on September 6th. So we have a short work session immediately following the conclusion of the agenda meeting. We'll just switch over the mic system. So thank you again.